My name is Laura Graves, and I'm 29 years old. If you asked anyone back then, they'd have said I was the calm one, the dependable one, the woman who made things run smoothly while the world spun itself into drama. Maybe that was true. Maybe that's why I fell for him. When I first met Liam, he was all energy and charm, the kind of man who filled a room even when he wasn't trying to. He laughed loudly, talked with his hands, told stories like each one could change your life. I used to watch him and think he makes chaos look like passion. We met at a friend's barbecue under strings of cheap yellow lights that buzzed faintly in the summer air. He offered me the last slice of grilled pineapple, called it a peace offering, though we'd never fought. I remember thinking how easy he made everything seem. A year later, we were living together in a small apartment just outside the city, a place that always smelled faintly of coffee and fresh paint. Our fridge was covered in Polaroids, camping trips, birthdays, lazy Sundays. I was an engineer by trade, a problem solver by nature. He said that's what he loved about me. You fix things, Evie, even people. He used to say I balanced him out, that my quiet steadiness kept him grounded. I believed him. But somewhere along the way, balance turned into burden. It started with the gym. Liam had decided to focus on mental strength, and I supported him completely. He came home glowing, talking about his new trainer, Kara. The name came up so often it started to echo. Kara says confidence is a muscle. Kara thinks I've got potential I haven't tapped into. Kara says most people settle for average. At first I smiled through it. Everyone needs motivation. But soon Kara became his mirror for everything he thought he lacked and everything he decided I didn't have. One evening, as we ate dinner pasta the way he liked it, garlic heavy, he scrolled through a photo of Kara deadlifting something ridiculous and said, "You'd get it if you actually pushed yourself sometimes. Kara doesn't just exist, she lives." I laughed softly. "You mean she posts about living? I just don't need an audience to prove it." He rolled his eyes. "That's what I mean, Laura. You never get it." That word never hung between us like smoke. The next few weeks blurred. He stayed longer at the gym, came home smelling of someone else's cologne, claiming it was just the gym scent. When I mentioned it, he smiled the kind of smile people use when they think they're above you. "Relax, Evie. Not everything revolves around you." I didn't argue. I never yelled. But my silence started saying things neither of us wanted to hear. Then came the night I realized how far we'd drifted. He'd invited a few friends over, 2 women from work, and one guy I'd met once. I offered to get everyone drinks. From the kitchen, I heard him laugh. That sharp, cruel kind of laugh that doesn't sound like joy at all. "She's sweet," he said, "but she's not exactly the type you brag about." The women didn't laugh. The man did. I carried the drinks out like nothing happened, set them down carefully. He looked at me like I hadn't heard. I smiled anyway. That's what quiet women do. We hold dignity, even when no one offers it back. That night, as he climbed into bed, he whispered, "Don't be so sensitive, babe. You know I'm joking." But I wasn't sensitive. I was observant. Every joke chipped away at something I used to be proud of. Still, I tried. I cooked his favorite meals, left notes on the mirror, asked about his day even when he barely answered. I told myself it was a phase that he'd come back down once the excitement faded. But love doesn't die in storms. It dissolves and drips mockery, replacing respect sighs, replacing conversation. By the time autumn came, I could feel it. The quiet contempt. He'd scroll through his phone while I talked smirk when I offered to help with his errands. The same man who once said I steadied him now treated me like a weight he couldn't wait to drop. I wasn't stupid. I just wanted to believe that the man who used to trace constellations on my back while I fell asleep was still somewhere in there. But that illusion ended the night everything snapped. It was supposed to be simple, a birthday dinner for one of our friends. I came home from work, still in my uniform, and found Liam pacing in the living room, dressed in a black shirt that clung too tight. "You ready?" I asked. He looked me up and down, that smug half smile tugging at his mouth. "You're really wearing that?" I blinked. "Yeah. What's wrong with it?" He shrugged. "Nothing. Just, you don't really try, do you?" The words landed quietly like pebbles dropped into water. I didn't respond. I just changed my earrings and told myself not to let it ruin the night. At dinner, Kara's name came up again because of course it did. Every time she was mentioned, his eyes lit like he'd swallowed a spark. When he reached for my hand under the table, his thumb brushed mine mechanically, his gaze fixed on his phone. When we got home, I finally said it. "If you respect me, stop bringing her up every 5 minutes." He laughed short and sharp. "You're jealous again. It's unattractive when you act insecure." "I'm not jealous," I said, voice steady. "I just don't like being compared to someone who only exists in your fantasies." He turned eyes cold. "You'll never be like her. She lives. You just exist." For a long moment, I said nothing. I just looked at him, the man who once said I was his calm in the chaos, and saw only contempt. I didn't slam doors. I didn't cry. I just stared until he looked away. That night, he fell asleep with his phone face down. At 3:27 a.m., it buzzed. The name on the screen was Kara. The message preview read, "She asleep." I didn't need to see more. By sunrise, I had showered, packed a suitcase essentials, only passport, laptop, clothes, my grandmother's watch, and left the keys on the counter. I didn't write a note. I didn't call. I didn't block him. When he woke up, I wanted him to feel the silence. Because sometimes the loudest way to leave is quietly. When I left that morning, the city was still half asleep. The air smelled faintly of rain and burnt coffee from the corner cafe. For the first time in a long time, I felt weightless, like I'd stepped out of a fog I didn't know I'd been living in. I went to a coworker's apartment across town. Her name was Mia, someone from the engineering team who had once mentioned she rented out a spare room. I told her I needed a place for a few days. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a spare key and said, "There's tea in the cabinet and towels in the bathroom." I spent the first few hours sitting by her window, watching buses pass people rushing to work, the kind of ordinary calm I hadn't felt in months. The silence wasn't heavy, it was healing. By noon, the messages started. Liam. Laura. Are you serious right now, Liam? Where are you, Liam? We just had an argument. Don't be dramatic. I didn't respond. I stared at the screen until the battery died and felt nothing but relief when it went black. Later that day, 3 missed calls followed by another text. Liam, you're acting childish. I didn't mean it like that. Can we talk? I still said nothing. Silence is uncomfortable to people who live off control. For the first time, I wasn't giving him any reaction, and that terrified him more than anger ever could. By the next morning, Mia said someone had been standing by the building door around 7, pretending to check mailboxes. I didn't have to ask who. Then a new message popped up. Liam, Laura. I don't know what you're doing, but this isn't you. Please just talk to me. You're scaring me. I played the attached voicemail twice. His voice trembled just enough to sound pitiful, a performance he probably believed himself. He wasn't scared of losing me. He was scared of losing control of the story. That night, I checked our shared account, the one I'd funded every month for bills. He had transferred himself $500 writing utilities in the memo. The bills were all in my name. So I froze the account. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Liam. Seriously, Eve. You froze the account. What's wrong with you? Then, as if switching strategies mid-performance. Liam. Please, I didn't mean what I said. You know how I get when I'm frustrated. I didn't mean to hurt you. But the truth is, he meant every word that night. He just didn't like the consequence. Over the next few days, he started contacting my friends. Ryan, a mutual coworker, sent me a screenshot. Liam, she's having some kind of breakdown. I'm worried about her. I almost laughed. Funny how quiet women are always labeled unstable the moment they stop absorbing disrespect. When you leave someone like Liam, the hardest part isn't the loneliness. It's realizing how peaceful the world feels without their voice in it. I woke up early each morning in that small apartment, made coffee, sat on the balcony, and watched light crawl up the walls. My body started to unclench. My mind stopped rehearsing defenses for conversations that never should have existed. Still, a part of me kept checking my phone. Not because I missed him, but because I wanted to see how far he'd go to pretend he didn't deserve it. The answer came 3 days later. Voicemail, Laura. I don't know what you're proving, but this isn't healthy. You're acting unstable. Just come home and let's talk like adults. His tone had shifted sharp again, his patience gone. That was Liam in a nutshell: remorse, when ignored, rage, when unseen. Then came the visit. The receptionist at my office messaged me, "Hey, there's someone downstairs asking for you, says he's here to drop something off." I knew instantly. When I walked through the lobby doors, he was standing there in his gym clothes holding an empty paper bag. "Laura," he said, like he was saying my name for the first time in years. "Can we just talk for 5 minutes?" "I'm at work, Liam," I replied evenly. He sighed. "You can't just disappear like this." "I already did." Something in his jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he'd raise his voice, but he didn't. He just stared, waiting for me to soften. I didn't. I turned and walked back inside without another word. He came again the next day, waited by the parking lot this time. When I saw him standing there, pretending to look lost, I didn't even slow down. I walked past him, the sound of my heels echoing like punctuation. That night Ryan texted again. "Ryan, he's saying you abandoned him after he opened up about his insecurities." I smiled bitterly. The story always changes when the audience leaves. People like Liam don't handle silence well because silence tells the truth that their voice was never as powerful as they believed. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I just felt free. I didn't realize it then, but that silence, my absence, would be the loudest thing he'd ever hear. It had been 2 months since I left long enough for the ache to fade into something quieter, almost peaceful. I'd started jogging in the mornings, cooking dinner with Mia at night, and sleeping through the kind of silence that used to scare me. I hadn't heard from Liam in weeks. I thought maybe he'd finally moved on until one night around 11, I got a text from an unknown number. "Unknown, Laura? It's me. Please hear me out." Unknown. You were right. She's not who I thought she was. I stared at the screen for a long time before locking my phone. There was no satisfaction in seeing those words. Just confirmation. The universe has its own sense of balance, and it never forgets its debts. The next day I told Mia about it over breakfast. She raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Kara." I nodded. "She'll eat him alive," Mia said simply, taking a sip of her coffee. I didn't argue. A few nights later, I got another message. "Liam. She broke my phone last week. I had to get a new one. Liam." I didn't know who else to talk to. There was something strange about the way he wrote now, no pride, no swagger, just desperation disguised as apology. He used to mock my calmness. Now he was drowning in the chaos he once glorified. I didn't reply. But that night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long it would take before his cycle spun back toward me. 3 days later, Mia sent me a screenshot. It was a local news post. "Man arrested after bar fight leaves one hospitalized." The name wasn't listed, but I didn't need it. The details, age, location, description fit too perfectly. When Mia confirmed it was Liam, I didn't say a word. I just stared out the window and whispered, "Of course." It wasn't joy. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. The kind that doesn't sting, just settles quietly in your chest like dust after a storm. That night, as the rain tapped against the glass, I thought about all the times he'd told me I was too calm, too boring, too safe. Maybe he was right, but I'd rather be boring than broken. A week passed. Then another message came. "Liam. They dropped the charges. Liam. I know you probably don't care, but I needed to say sorry, Liam, for everything." Still, I didn't answer. But a few days later at 6 p.m., sharp came a knock on my door. When I opened it, there he was, Liam. Except the man standing there looked nothing like the one I remembered. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw unshaven, and his shoulders, once proud, were slumped like a man carrying a house of regrets. "Laura," he breathed, voice cracking on my name. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no, but a part of me, out of pity not love, stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure he deserved to exist in the same air. His hands trembled as he sat on the edge of the couch. "I don't even know where to start," he said. Kara, she's not what I thought." I folded my arms. "She's exactly what you thought. You just didn't want to see it." He flinched, but kept going. "I was wrong, Laura. About her, about you, about everything. I thought I needed someone exciting. But excitement isn't peace. It's just noise." I looked at him, really looked. This wasn't the confident man who told me I just existed. This was someone stripped bare by his own choices. "I didn't mean what I said that night," he continued. "I was angry. She got in my head, told me I deserved better, made me believe I was missing out. And You wanted to believe her," I interrupted softly. He blinked, taken aback by how calm I sounded. "Liam," I said, "you didn't lose me because of her. You lost me because I finally saw you." For a moment, the room was silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. He looked up, eyes glossy. "Can we just start over?" I shook my head. "You can't restart something that ended for a reason." He swallowed hard. "You really don't care anymore, do you?" "I cared enough once to break myself trying to fix you," I said, "but not anymore." He exhaled, long and shaky. Then, almost in a whisper, "I thought leaving you was freedom. Turns out it was the only real prison I built myself." He stood hesitating by the door. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I finally get it." I nodded. "Good. Then let that be enough." He lingered for a moment longer, then left. The door clicked shut with a soft finality that felt like an ending. Later that night, I wrote in my journal, "Sometimes karma doesn't come with fire or fury. It comes quietly wrapped in the shape of the person who thought they'd never fall." And for the first time since leaving him, I smiled, not because he'd broken, but because I finally hadn't. It's strange how easily life heals when you stop feeding what hurts you. After that night, I didn't hear from Liam for a long time. Weeks turned into months, and the space he once filled with chaos became a quiet rhythm I didn't want to lose again. I started running every morning before work. I bought plants that somehow stayed alive. I laughed at small things, Mia burning pancakes, the neighbor's cat sneaking into our kitchen window. Slowly, I built a world that didn't include him. And then one day, life handed me something new. His name was Daniel. We met at a hardware store, both reaching for the same wrench. He smiled awkwardly, apologetic, the opposite of Liam in every possible way. Where Liam was loud, Daniel listened. Where Liam demanded, Daniel asked. We started talking then, sharing coffee, then pieces of our lives. There were no grand gestures, no fireworks, just ease. And for the first time I realized peace could be passionate too, just quieter. I didn't post about him. I didn't announce anything. After what I'd lived through, I'd learned that real happiness doesn't need to prove itself. But peace has a way of attracting ghosts. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Ryan, the mutual friend who'd once been caught between us. Ryan heads up Laura. He's been asking about you. Says he doesn't recognize who you've become. I read the message twice. I could almost hear Liam's tone in those words, half admiration, half resentment. He couldn't understand that I hadn't changed. I'd just stopped shrinking. A few days later, the next message came. Liam, I heard you're seeing someone. I'm happy for you, but I wish I'd met this version of you, the confident one. For the first time in months, I responded. Just one line. Me, she was always here. You just weren't looking. He didn't reply. Not that day. But at 2:13 a.m., another message appeared. Liam, do you ever think about what we could have been if things were different? I stared at it for a long time before typing back. Me, no. I think about what I was and what I'll never be again. 5 minutes later, read, then silence. Weeks passed, and little by little I started to hear the echoes of his downfall. Kara had left him. He'd lost his job after missing too many shifts. Friends distanced themselves when his stories stopped making sense. Ryan told me one night over coffee. He's not the same. It's like he's searching for someone to blame. I smiled faintly. He always was. Then came the night that closed the circle. Mia invited me to her engagement party, a rooftop dinner surrounded by fairy lights and city noise. I almost didn't go, but I owed her too much to skip it. The night was warm laughter spilling like champagne. I was talking with Daniel near the bar when I heard a voice behind me. Laura. I didn't need to turn to know. That voice had been burned into me long before it broke me. When I turned, I barely recognized him. Liam looked smaller, not physically, but in presence. The sharpness was gone, replaced by something hollow. His once proud shoulders slumped slightly, his eyes tired. Wow, he said, forcing a smile. It's been a while. It has, I said evenly. He looked around like searching for the right words. You look good. I feel good. That answer threw him off. He laughed softly, awkwardly. You really did change. No, I said. I just stopped mistaking exhaustion for love. He glanced toward Daniel, who had stepped away to greet someone. Is that him? Yes. He nodded slowly. He seems nice. He is. There was a pause, one of those heavy silences that carry 100 unsaid things. I know I said terrible things, Liam whispered. That night, what I said about you not living, I didn't mean it. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You just didn't expect to hear yourself say it out loud. He flinched. I thought I wanted excitement, someone wild, but I confused noise for meaning. She wasn't strong, she was just loud. I met his eyes, a common mistake. He took a shaky breath. Do you ever think we could start over, just begin again clean? I smiled gently. No, Liam. Some endings are mercy. He looked down at his hands. You really don't care anymore, do you? I cared enough to build a life around you, I said softly. Enough to lose myself trying to prove I was enough, but not anymore. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I hope he treats you right. He does, but the truth is he doesn't have to try. He just doesn't destroy the things he says he loves. That silence between us was the truest thing we'd ever shared. After a moment, he whispered, I'm sorry. I know, I said. But apologies don't fix contempt. They just prove you finally see it. He smiled, faintly defeated. I hope you're happy. I am. I hope someday you stop chasing versions of people you invent in your head. He blinked, nodded once, and stepped back. I watched him walk away, disappearing into the warm glow of the city lights, until he was just another figure in motion, blurred, distant, fading. When he was gone, Daniel came back, slipping his arm around my shoulders. You okay? He asked gently. I smiled. Yeah, I finally am. As we left the rooftop that night, I looked up at the skyline and thought, he told me I'd never live like her. He was right. I live better quietly, completely, without needing to be seen. It's been a year since that night on the rooftop. A full year since I saw Liam for the last time, thinner, quieter, and full of regrets he finally had to carry alone. Sometimes I still think about the girl I used to be, the one who waited by her phone trying to decode silence like it was a secret language, the one who thought love meant fixing, not recognizing when something was broken beyond repair. I don't miss him. I miss the version of myself who believed that love could survive anything, even contempt. She was naive, but she was brave. Now my life is slower, softer. I wake up before sunrise and run until the sky turns gold. Daniel makes coffee while I shower, humming off key to songs he never quite remembers the lyrics to. Sometimes I catch myself smiling for no reason, just because there's no weight in the room anymore. It's peace, not perfection, and that's enough. Every now and then, Liam still finds a way to orbit my world. A mutual friend will mention his name in passing, that he's working on himself, that he's trying to stay sober, that he's different now. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But the truth is, it no longer matters. Because growth only counts when it's quiet, when you change not to win someone back, but to finally meet yourself again. A few weeks ago, I found an old box while cleaning my closet. Inside were scraps of our shared life movie tickets, a cracked photo frame, the spare key. He never used to lock anything. I held it for a while, then dropped everything into the trash. The sound it made was small, but it felt monumental. It wasn't bitterness, it was release. One night, Daniel and I were having dinner when my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from Instagram, a new message request. From Liam. I hesitated before opening it. It was short. Liam, I saw your latest post. You look happy. I'm glad. That was it. No begging, no manipulation. Just closure. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because some stories deserve silence at the end. I turned off my phone and went back to my dinner. Daniel was telling me about a hiking trail he wanted to visit that weekend. His hands moved as he spoke, eyes, bright voice. Steady, the kind of steady I once thought was boring, until I learned how rare it really is. I reached across the table and took his hand. He stopped mid-sentence, smiled, and said, "What?" Nothing, I said softly. Just, "Thank you for being quiet in all the right ways." Later that night, I stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer against the glass. For a long time, I thought strength was surviving people like Liam, enduring, forgiving, holding on. But it isn't. Strength is walking away without hating yourself for it. It's learning that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. If Liam ever thinks of me now, I hope he remembers not the woman he tried to break, but the one who left without a word and never came back. Because that's the thing about silence, when it finally speaks, it's the loudest truth there is. He said I'd never really live, but maybe living isn't about noise or chaos. Maybe it's about peace, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.